All right. So, Mormons gang. So, Mormon with the government here, with the local government. This is like where the cops they like to creepy back, where they like avoid being seen in dark web with these groups. But this is all their procedure and shit. Essentially, it'll be a mayor, a city attorney, a sheriff, a PD captain, an FBI agent with some sort of Mormon security guard out of the temple, a federal judge, and probably a federal prosecutor that basically runs forms of corruption that allows then for the people that think that they should be able to like isolate high school students and shit behind the scenes without telling them, principals and teachers and the school cop, and then it'll be like the school security guard. They think that they should be able to have unfettered access to people's devices, and then they think that they should be able to restrict their free speech and whatever they're saying. See, basically what they don't like is that people are divulging what they do. Yeah, there's hackers in high school, and that then the hackers see all these people being fucking psycho voyeurs and shit, and then they usually start telling people in their own school on social media, and then these little fucking Mormon, like they call it the Mormon Security Agency, they start popping up, and then this federal judge here and the prosecutors and shit, they start giving authority and some sort of legal interpretation for some sort of Satan cult that has like a hacking system out of the dark web to be like basically, I'm gonna get into this, and to be basically like restricting people from divulging what these like principals and teachers and fucking people do in schools and shit. And then for some reason they'll have like these, essentially the Mormon Security Agency ends up being like these, like they call them the Cuck 44 Mormons. They're in like adult S&Ms as like a Mormon group of hookup kind of guys, and then they'll have a couple of missionaries, and then they'll have some old white clothes Mormon and shit that supposedly is like their leader or something. And then for some reason they'll have some fundy, preppy cheerleader Mormon mom and their Mormon kid, who basically the Mormon kid is like an ultimately psychotic, like OCD kind of person that'll sit there for 12 hours a day, pressing the button, pressing the button, pressing the button on bringing down the video and shit. And like, that's essentially the structure of their system. They're so paranoid about it that they build it in this way, and that is where this is why I call them an organized crime group. And so essentially the Mormon government gang is online. I mean, this is the same thing that they do with like drug gangs. They are online in more than groups of two. This is the justifications that they use, and like what you people should just realize is that you people are basically doing what the Silk Road would do. Okay, that's okay. And so you people have a procedural organized criminal group. And so, essentially, their main idea is to restrict free speech as a civil rights violation, and that has a federal level kind of like aspect to it, and that they do that through illegal activity, and that then they do forms of targeted harassment using these hacks, and then the whole idea is that basically they don't like what I say, then essentially if I, it times off or whatever, and that then if I try and make another video, then it like prevents me from making the video, and that then I have to like reset, and it's meant to be like a slow form of psychological torture that pushes people through like hoops and shit like that, and that's psychological torture. That is a capital offense. And so the whole idea is that it's also cyber based, so it comes with a little extra aspects of criminality, and that then they go around claim they lie, they lie, manipulate, and defraud these groups, acting like they're part of a national security agency, and then they impersonate federal agents, and that then essentially with that, those people know that they the mayors and shit like that, they know that they're not a part of that shit, but they act dumb about it. That's the form of corruption that they're doing. They know that they're not a part of that. They're just a Mormon Satan cult, okay? They're just a Mormon temple, and they know that that is not a national security agency just because they lie. And see, that's the corruption aspects. And you see that this stuff is so trained in them in a procedural way that that's what makes it an organized crime group or a gang. And that then they do all FBI indexing ideas and they do meta hacking and all that stuff. And then they use that stuff like, it's like, I imagine that they had other groups helping them with this stuff, and I imagine that like every time that I would like look at porn or something, then they like act like they're doing some sort of accurate meta system, and then they probably lie about what type of porn I was looking at and stuff, and so then that type of stuff causes like problems in my life in the past, because these people would do this in the past, and then they would lie to my ex-wife about what porn I was lacking off to, and then they would lie, and it would be like some porn that wouldn't be acceptable to my ex-wife and stuff like that. And then they do that behind the scenes and stuff, and then they're like a targeted group trying to cause like a psyop gaslight behind the scenes, and then they basically do these voyeur sites. The whole idea is that the stupid ass group doesn't seem to realize that while I'm recording on YouTube, that's not available on YouTube until I upload. And see, they're watching for what I say, and then they're timing it off. And so that means that they have a voyeur and a screenshot voyeur, and that's a violation of my privacy. And see, they do this as an organized group that instantly is trained and shit, and that's what makes it a procedural organized crime gang. And then there's two missionaries with the same clothes. I mean, and that then they seem to think around here, because they're like so neurotic normal or something in some Republican way, that they think that they should have special privileges and insider laws to allow them to do what other people do, and that then the other people get thrown in jail, and then they don't think that they should be thrown in jail for doing the exact same thing that tons of other groups do all over the United States. And so this is where they've sat here in this town thinking that being a group that does high-level forms of corruption to maintain what other hackers basically do everywhere. See, the little stupid Mormon kid that keeps timing out my shit, that person is literally doing that to do psychological torture in the exact tech psycho way. So when you guys start lying about somebody having a V for vendetta fucking picture and calling the person a tech psycho, the isolation method of letting it run and then timing it out and then forcing people through hoops and workflows and shit and expecting people to have to use something and demand. This is like where they want to show that they master by forcing people to have to do it on the regular iPad, and then they have a hack through zero time. And then they illegally rip off the videos. Then they manipulate the videos. And then it reinforces some sort of narrative that they're trying to justify everything as. And then they hide everything in the Mormon temple. And then all the cops and everybody else just uses their little database with all the manipulated videos. And then they start to justify as one big city group a targeted harassment in a hacking way.